welcome back to my 4 top tips for writing EAP resources for other teachers. In this second video, I want to look at the art of writing EAP materials, by which I'm talking about the importance of having very clear aims, rationales, and takeaways. When you're writing any kind of teaching materials, the question you have to be asking yourself throughout the whole process is, why am I including this? And that starts right from the beginning, thinking about your overall aim. What is this lesson trying to teach? And it will depend on the nature of your course as to how broad or how specific those aims are. But you should have a clear idea in your mind of what the lesson is trying to achieve. Then I've used the word rationale to refer to the specific elements of a lesson. So how does each activity work towards the aim? How is it linked to what went before, and how does it move students forward towards their final aim? And also think about, what are the takeaways? So what will the student know by the end of the lesson? Now, we all know that just because we teach something, it doesn't mean that students learn it necessarily. But what I'm referring to here are the things that students at least walk away with a better awareness of. So if you want your students to leave the classroom with at least one thing clear in their mind, what thing do you want that to be? And that idea needs to shine through in the materials that you write. So we all know this, and when I've given training in workshops about writing EAP materials, I talk about the aims and the rationales and the takeaways, and everybody nods along because they're familiar with this idea from lesson planning. But then I give them an activity. I give them a short academic text and I ask them, how would you go about exploiting this in class? And they work on it in groups. And when I go and ask them, well, what have you decided to do with this material? They might say, well, we're going to start off, there's a nice example of a thesis statement here. And then there's some good academic vocabulary, we can do some work with that. And there's a good discussion topic that we can talk about in class. Oh, and there's also a nice example here of the writer stating their main point and then giving support using evidence from a source and a citation. Oh, and at the end, we're going to look at the hedging language that's used in the conclusion. And my question is, well, what's the aim of the lesson here? They've got carried away and sidetracked with all the different things that they could teach. And what you need to do is focus in to decide, okay, this lesson is about main points supported with evidence from sources. So we're going to ignore the thesis statement. We're going to ignore the hedging in the conclusion. Yes, you might have a bit of a discussion topic to break up the text analysis with a bit more focus on the general ideas. And yes, you might have a bit of vocabulary as a secondary aim, but it shouldn't be the main focus of the lesson. So you've decided on your aims and rationales, and you think you've got it clear in your own mind, but are your aims clear on the page? It's often the case that when we're teaching our own material, we can see exactly what the flow of the ideas is and how they link together. But perhaps when we give that same material to colleagues, those aims and that sequence isn't always quite so clear. So what can we do to make sure our aims are crystal clear? Well, the first thing is to share your material with someone else, to get a second pair of eyes. You might actually ask somebody to go through and actually mark on the page what they think the aims and rationales of each activity are. And when you get that back, you'll see whether their ideas match up with your own, or whether maybe they're a bit different, whether they've misinterpreted, whether there are some question marks. And if that's the case, it may be as simple as presenting the materials a bit more clearly on the page. Giving them nice clear headings, for example, can help to just direct people's attention. Or it may be that you have to rethink slightly. Perhaps there are too many competing aims on the page. It may be that you need to cut down some of the activities and give the others more prominence and more time, so that you're really making sure you focus on the main aims of the lesson. It may be that you have a jump from one activity to the next which doesn't seem to quite link up, and you may need to add an extra stage just to make that really clear. And that extra stage might be something as simple as a single line question. Often when we're teaching our own materials, we will ask a reflective question between activities to make the link between them more explicit. But another teacher might not see that, so perhaps you need to put it on the page. And once we've had our rethink, we share them again, and hopefully in this process of refining, we end up with something that's really clear and logical for both the teacher and the students. So thank you for listening. In my third video, I'm going to be talking about the concept of materials that are teach off the page, materials that are a joy for our colleagues to use.